our attention to the Saints. They hold that 9th overall pick. There's been conversations that they could take a quarterback under new head coach Kellen Moore. A lot of that has to do with uncertainty around Derek Carr's health. GM Mickey Loomis addressed Carr's status earlier today. Here's what he said.
He does have an issue with his shoulder. We're hoping to get some resolution and clarity on that in the near future and report back to you. I don't think the draft approach for us is any different than it would be in any year. If we're picking in the top 10, we're looking for somebody that, man, we're going to count on this guy for the next 8 to 10 years. And he's going to fill that spot, and we're not going to have to worry about it. But sometimes it might be a guy that just, man, we can sleep at night because we got that position covered for the next, 8 to 10 years.
So that's where their heads are at. Adam, what more can you tell us about where the Saints stand with Derek Carr?
Well, Laura, this is a situation where there are more questions than there are answers. There are questions about when and if Derek Carr will play football again. There are questions about his contract and how that's going to play out. There are questions about what the Saints are going to do at quarterback. This is an injury that they have known that he's had all along, but all of a sudden, 2 days before they open their offseason program, it comes out that he's got an issue with his shoulder that Mickey Loomis says the team still does not have clarity on. And you also heard him talk about the fact that they were making quarterback plans anyway before this news surfaced. And so they're going to go ahead and try to find that player that can make them sleep easy at night at number 9. And then I think there are people who believe that they do love Jackson Dart, that they may try to move back into the first round to get him. They've already made calls about moving up from pick number 40 in the second round, and we'll see how the Saints approach it. But they obviously have a major issue at quarterback, and it doesn't sound right now like they'd like to address that at number 9.
Yeah, it's just fascinating. Adam, again, the way this is all playing out, I think fans at home, you guys are probably reading between the lines the way that we all are too with what Derek Carr may be doing here. But, Dan, what do you think the Saints should do with quarterback position in this draft?
Oh, you have to draft a quarterback before the 33rd pick. Schefter just talked about it. They sit at 40 in the second round. I'll go back to Cleveland sitting at the 33rd pick. If you're not going to take one at 9, you have to go ahead. In your division is Bryce Young. If he's anything, what we saw at the back end of last year, they're going to be good. Baker Mayfield, we know, is a very good quarterback. And then Atlanta has Michael Penix. You have nobody, New Orleans. You have no future. So if you want to have the conversation of tackle at 9, I'm good with it. But you better go above Cleveland, because if you love Jackson Dart, he's going to be gone by the 33rd pick. So if you're New Orleans, quarterback in that late first round, similar to the Giants, similar to Cleveland, like you have to make these moves.
For the sake of not being repetitive, Dio, I agree with you. But you look at, like, this team drafts line of scrimmage. Yeah. Like, that's been their calling card.
But they don't have a person to play the position long term.
Dio, I got you. But that is what they've been doing. And to your point, I think they feel like the value at 9 for whatever these quarterbacks are won't be where it needs to be at that particular pick. But if you got a defensive guy that you pinpointed that you think can be a cornerstone, and then you move back into it. Remember, we were with Cam. Cam has been their top pass rusher for the last 10 years. He barely hit the field this year. Davenport did a good job. But ultimately, if you're Mickey Loomis, your history has shown that you're going to go line of scrimmage and try to creep back into the first round. Here's the conundrum for every team and why we're having these conversations. The reality is nobody feels like the quarterbacks after Cam is good enough to take them at that value.
Here's my pushback on that. Why?
Dio, I don't make the damn rules. I'm not taking the pick.
Because we've fallen into this trap where every quarterback has to be like Lamar, Josh, Joe, Patrick, or whoever, Hurts or something like that. And if they're not that, we can't take them.
So here's the thing. I don't necessarily believe that, but I do believe you have to be a certain thing if I'm going to pick you 9.
There you go.
If I'm going to pick you 3, if I'm going to pick you 6, that's where this conversation begins. It's not necessarily if any of these dudes can pan out to be good starting quarterbacks for the next 8 to 10 years. I believe there's some belief in the Shedeur Sanders. There's some belief in Jackson Dart. Tyler Shuck is entering that conversation. Jalen Miro is this project, but it's like, where do we pick him? And if we pick them here, do we set our franchise back if he isn't that guy? And what Mickey Loomis is saying, I can sleep at night because this dude at this position is going to be great or very good for the next decade. Then they get a quarterback.
I mean, we were all pretty comfortable with the quarterbacks last year.
Yeah,
just to draw a point of comparison. If this was last year, I think we'd all be like, great, take J.J. McCarthy, New Orleans. Offensive line is the thing that jumps out to me here. You saw they didn't pick up the fifth-year option for Trevor Penning.
Yep.
They need a tackle. Kellen Moore knows firsthand how important offensive line play is and how it can set you back. He was with the Chargers, you remember, before Philadelphia, and that offensive line made it really hard to call plays. So I have to think that's going to be a priority.
But
for
are
him.
you offensive lineman at 9 and then second-round quarterback, or are you?
No, you can try to come up. I don't think
But doesn't it I think what Adam just said is so important. If Shedeur or another quarterback goes at 21, then I think things change.
It becomes
right?
panic
It
mode.
becomes panic mode
you
for
don't
these
love
teams
3.
because they think, oh well, if a quarterback doesn't go there for the Steelers, then we could get somebody in the second round.
Also, too, maybe you got to play a year without that guy sometimes.
You've
like
advocated
you have
for that.
Kellen Moore. Maybe you got to say, you know what? This year we don't have a 12-year solution. Or if we're going to pick a guy in the second round, we have to be ready to pick a guy in the first round next year if he ain't that dude.
And respectfully, that's why the Steelers are where the Steelers
Oh man, that's a personal message to the
They
Steelers
picked
from
Kenny
our
Pickett.
seat. All right.
Jumping from 15 to grab the Michigan tight end and Colston Loveland. Then at number 2, we'll see the Browns taking Travis Hunter. He'd be the highest drafted wideout or corner taken since Calvin Johnson in 2007, and it's safe to say that worked out okay for the Lions. Next, he's got the Giants drafting Abdul Carter, 3rd overall. Last time New York picked this high, they took another Penn State player named Saquon Barkley. He turned out pretty good as well, I'd say. As for the most polarizing player in the draft, he has Shedeur Sanders going to the Steelers 21st overall. Sanders would be just the 5th quarterback taken by the Steelers in the first round in the common draft era.
SportsCenter on the Road is presented by Geico. Switch and save. Get more with Geico.
It is great to have NFL analyst Peter Schrager with us live from Green Bay. Peter, we're going to dive into your mock in a moment, but you've worked at ESPN for like 5 minutes. How do you already have a mock draft up on ESPN.com?
Yeah.
What is going on?
And they rolled me right out and said, okay, get to work. And I've been working on it. And Shay, great to be with you. I take a lot of pride in this mock draft. I bring it over from NFL Network and Fox where I've been. And I only do one mock draft. And it's not who I think should go where. It's about what I'm hearing. So
Okay.
take for it that angle. It's not my picks. It's what I'm hearing from around the league.
Okay, I love the clarity and hardest working man I know right now. Okay, but let's go to the news that you broke yesterday, that the Browns and Giants had taken calls from teams looking to move up to spots 2 and 3. What is the latest you're hearing now that you're there in Green Bay?
Yeah, those phone lines are still open and they're still listening. Cleveland has not been wowed by any offers, but there are phone calls coming in saying, hey, would you be willing to trade out of 2? 3 is interesting. Obviously, the Giants have a need at quarterback, and if you're trading out of 3, it might be the move to say, well, we don't want a quarterback with the 3rd pick, but if we can get a bunch of picks, we can justify taking a quarterback a little bit later and say, well, we also got this bounty of picks. The truth of the matter is, neither one of those teams have been blown away with offers. Both of them are listening. The Tennessee Titans, however, who have the 1st pick, they've told everybody, we're good. Phone lines are closed. Let's get to the draft.
Okay, and the obvious thing there is that they'll probably take Cam Ward. But then there's the other quarterbacks. You've got Shedeur Sanders going 21 to the Steelers. Take us through why you've got Sanders falling, you could say, to Pittsburgh.
This is a hard one. Now, I still think there's a chance that Shedeur Sanders goes as high as number 3 to the Giants. I do say that here as we're 24 hours out. No one is